Hello, this demo is a demo of the Kapow platform being used in a mortgage application. Mortgage applications are a mountain of paperwork, and Kapow can help build software applications that collect the needed documents with much less effort, particularly for the applicant. A Kapow robot can, for example, go out, pull a variety of mortgage application documents, things like bank statements and pay stubs, and email those on to an application processor or throw them into a database so that they can be used as part of a workflow, mortgage application workflow. So we'll discuss how Kapow can be used as a platform to make that happen. Before we get into the actual demonstrations, let me give you a quick sense for what the Kapow platform is like and what you'll be seeing and what you won't be seeing. There's two major parts to the Kapow platform. There's Kapow Catalyst, which consists of the Design Studio, which is what you'll see mostly, a management console, and a Robo server, which I'll discuss more in a second. And there's the Kapow Cat Zone, which is a lightweight visualization platform that allows you to do things like take a look at the results of robot runs, see what sort of data has been pulled, even do some light graphing, things along those lines. The nature of this particular demo won't lend itself to Cat Zone, so I won't touch much on that at all. Here's the basic Kapow platform and how it's constructed. You'll see in the middle is Catalyst. Design Studio is where you actually build what are called robots. Robots are workflows that interact with a variety of data sources, but the biggest data source that we have a tendency to work with are web-based data sources. We have a purpose-built web browser that's built solely to interact with websites for data extraction and for process automation types of applications, and it works really beautifully. You'll get a real sense for it when I get into the demonstration proper. In addition, there's a shared repository. Those are the collection of robots and types and other things that you build. Management console and robo servers kind of go together. Robo servers are the actual mechanism, server-side mechanism, that runs robots. So the way it works is you'll design a robot in the Design Studio. Once you believe you've got it working the way you want it to work, then you'll upload it to a robo server for running. Management Console is the user interface that manages the robo servers and manages the server side part of the process. So it allows you to do things like schedule robot runs and determine if you've got multiple robo servers, how they're configured and how the various processing capability in terms of the amount of processing power you can throw in a robo server is divided amongst a variety of robo servers. So it's got a lot of enterprise class management capabilities, logging capabilities. That's where you would check logs of various types to see how robot runs are going, things along those lines. At its heart, it's an integration engine. That's what's showing down here. We can integrate with a wide variety of sources. We can easily integrate with SQL databases through a JDBC interface, so you can touch pretty much anything that's got a JDBC driver. We've also got the capability to go directly to the file system. We can work with APIs, both REST and SOAP, and I'll give you a sense for that. But again, our major area of concentration is the browser interface. We allow you to interface with applications at a browser level. So, for example, if a given application doesn't have an API, you can actually build what's called a synthetic API by using the browser as your interface into the application. I'll give you more of a sense for that also as we move forward. Again, there's a wide variety of data sources there. Talked about more down here. We've touched on a bunch of them. SOAP, REST database. You can hit email. We've got OAuth capability, FTP capability if you want. We can deal very well with XML formats. Got some new features in 9.4 for integrating with CSV. We can also deal with JSON quite well. So let me jump right in and we'll start taking a look at how the platform works. We'll cover this in two spots. I'll show you first off a large demonstration robot, and then I'll give you a sense for how some of the capabilities in that demo robot can actually be integrated into a working mortgage application, and I'll actually show you a kind of crude, but I think it'll get the point across, web-based application that uses the Kapow platform. So let me start. This is first the Design Studio. As we discussed, we'll spend most of our time in here. You can see the various parts of the Design Studio. These are the robots that we've built. This is both of these two windows here show the purpose-built web browser that allows you to see in visual form. What you see is what you get from here, the contents of a web session that you're working with, but you can also see it in full HTML/DOM format down here as well. These are the actual steps that make up the robot, and then this right here is the list of actions and the things that each action can do that make up the various steps of the robot, and you'll get more of a sense for that as I drill down. So let's take a quick look at what this robot has done. I'll show you, I'll cut right to the chase and show you what it's done. What it's done is it's gone out and collected a wide variety of documents from a wide variety of data sources that could be bundled together and used as part of the mortgage application process. So for example, it's pulled up a homeowner's insurance statement. These are all my personal accounts in some cases. A bank accounts of various types. Here's an HSBC account, and we also wanted to show you we could work with multiple banks. So here's a Bank of America account as well. In addition to those, we've collected UPS label or used UPS's web APIs to generate labels, which could be useful in terms of obviously getting all the paperwork back if you needed to. Things needed to be signed. And in addition, we've gone to and created some sample pay stubs from a pay stub site, the site that specializes in those sorts of things. And those are all there. In this case, we've chosen to produce the 3 most recent pay stubs. Notice, by the way, that there's a variety of formats here. These are all bitmaps, the last 4, and the ones up front are PDF. And so it can work with, the Kapow platform can work with either one of those types of formats, or any of those types of formats. So there's no issues there. In the case of the bitmap formats, it can support a variety of bitmap formats, 4 of the most popular ones, PNG, GIF, the kinds of things you'd expect to see in real-world applications. So let me concentrate a little bit here on the steps. What you can see here are basically all of the steps. There's a few steps we didn't run. There's a couple of labels I didn't bother generating, but you can get a sense here. These are all the steps. So what the robot does is it works much like a flow chart. It goes from left to right and top to bottom. It's a little different than a flow chart in that respect. So it'll do all of the steps here from left to right, and I'll show you that in a little bit more, and it'll go from top to bottom as well. So it ran the homeowner's insurance first, HSBC Bank first, second, and so forth. Each one of these works a little bit differently. I won't go through all of them, but we'll touch on all of them and all of what they do, but I'll give you a sense for how the platform works. So right now, all you see is one big step. One of the nice convenience features of the platform is that it allows you to take all of the steps that you might use to work with a website and combine them or group them into one big step. That's helpful if you're demonstrating and give people a much higher level view. So let's take get a quick sense for what it is that the platform does. In the case of the homeowner's insurance, what I'm actually going to do is use the purpose-built web browser to actually log into the, in this case, it's Stillwater Insurance website, just as a regular end user would, and just get a sense for how they log in. I basically treat it just exactly as I would a regular browser. In this case, I clicked here, and then once that was clicked, I clicked here, entered the username, the password, and so forth. And so at that point, it'll go ahead and you end up clicking. I won't go into it, but you'll end up clicking. You'll actually see more of this later. It'll actually go into the website, and at that point, I can start pulling statements and things along those lines. So you get a sense for how it works. It's very much point and click. There's no coding here at all. You point at the part of the UI you want. You enter what it is that you want in there. In this case, the end user name. You can click on the go button when you need to, and so forth. So it's very simple for straightforward websites. Now, the HSBC site's a very interesting variation because they do some things with authentication that are uncommon and that would make for a difficult use case for other types of approaches. Either if you're going to handwrite or use other types of integration software, they'd have a very hard time handling this particular use case. And the reason is because of the way they ask you for the password. They don't ask you for your entire password. They ask you for parts of it, and they'll vary the parts that they ask for each time that you log in. So the actual robot had to have logic built into it that understood how to do that, and that's what all of this is here. Basically what it did, I won't go into it too much, is this is an extremely strong platform. It's not just point and click. It understands the full nature of the DOM or the underlying structure of the web page, and it can go in and actually, for example, determine whether or not one of these boxes is active or non-active. That way it knows whether or not it's supposed to put part of the password in there. The whole point is that this is a very finicky use case that would be very difficult for other integration software to use. In the Kapal platform case, though, the workflow engine here was so powerful that it had no trouble. I was able to develop a solution to get past this authentication scheme in less than an hour or so. It wasn't particularly difficult. And in the case, like you saw, the Stillwater case up above, it's extremely easy. The same idea occurs for other parts of this. Let me jump down a little bit and I'll show you the last bit of web interaction, and we'll do it. I'll discuss some other techniques for mining data with the platform. Here's where we did the earnings statements, the pay stubs that you might send in as part of a mortgage application process. And this shows off an interesting new feature in 9.4. First off, let me give you a quick sense. This is a site called Paystub. You can go in and create sample pay stubs, which is what we're doing in this case. So I'll tell it at this part of the UI that I want 3 pay stubs, the most recent pay stubs. And then you end up clicking here, for example, to tell it to go ahead and view your stubs. In other words, to create your stubs and let you see them. By the way, this orange outline you see around the outside is a thing called a tag finder, and that's a very sophisticated mechanism in the Kapal platform to allow you to find the part of the UI that you want to work with in a whole variety of ways. You can find it by the internal names. You can find it by a pattern. Like, for example, I could look for the words view your stub literally if I wanted to. You can find tags relative to each other. You can find tags before and after other tags. You can find tags within tags. There's a whole variety of approaches. It's very, very powerful, which means that finding ways to interact with any given website, you have a lot of different options. The nice thing about it too is that if the website changes, for example, if they moved view your stub from here down to here, or they changed the color, those sorts of things, the way that you use tag finders, you'd usually not have any negative effect if they move that around, because you're likely to look for it by ID or things like that. Unless they change the ID, it would still find it any place on the page. So it's important you understand that it's not just a macro recorder in the classic sense. It's a very powerful platform that fully understands the underlying structure of the documents. So let me go in here. Now it will go through and create the 3 stubs. And so here, let me narrow it down a little bit. You'll get a chance to see. Here's the 3 stubs that it created. Now here's an extremely powerful feature of the platform. Typically, if you want to loop through things, it can be a little bit difficult in a lot of visual software. Here, it's very simple. What I've done is I've told it I want to loop through each one of those tags, and watch, I'll click here, and you'll see how it moves. It moved down to the second tag, and it can do that in this case for all 3 of the tag sets there. So you can use that to iterate through tables in a web page. You can use it to iterate through rows in a database. You can use it to iterate through rows in a spreadsheet. That same basic mechanism is used throughout the platform, and it makes looping through things very, very simple and very convenient. Let me give you a quick sense for what's going on here. In this case, we want to save these as bitmaps, but they're not bitmaps in the underlying HTML document. If you take a look, these are all actually HTML divs with tables, right? So it's not a bitmap. I can't just save it as a bitmap. So what I've done here is I've used what's called the extract screenshot step, and what that does, that action will actually take everything inside the orange, everything that the tag finder found, and write that to a bitmap. So not only can you write a portion of the screen as in screenshot form, it doesn't have to be the entire page. So in this case, I wanted to get the 3 stubs separately. I didn't want to get them all in one big picture. So I was able to iterate through them with no trouble whatsoever, and it works beautifully. It's very simple to do. And at this point, I didn't get all of this extra stuff. I didn't get the header or the buy now or any of that stuff. I got just what I wanted. I was able to isolate the part that I wanted isolated, clear down to the actual pay stub that I wanted. So those are 3 examples of using the integrated browser capability. Those are not the only way to interact with web services in the real world. So I'll give you a quick example here. In addition to interacting through a browser, you can also very easily hit web services, and that's what's been done in the case of calling the UPS service to get the label. In this case, it actually calls a web service, and the web service returns, in this case XML. It can also return JSON, and you can work with the XML and JSON in a visual form without having to write a lot of code. So in this case, for example, let's assume that I wanted to pull out the tracking number into a variable and save it. It would be very simple. All I do is click on it and tell the machine I want to extract it as text, and I'll throw it out to a temporary variable here. And you'll see what it does. There it ended up. It extracted the tracking number that simply. So what you're looking at here is a way to work with web services, in this case a REST web service, and it's a way that's very, very simple. It's very visual, like you can see here. You can explode in and out of all of the XML values. So we have a full XML integration mechanism, a full XML IDE here that allows you to very easily pull portions of it out. So in this case, what's happened, this is what's called UU encoded. So we actually used a encoder function or a decoder function to make that into the actual, or to pull out the actual bitmap, which I showed you before. And if you take a look, it's right here. So it pulls out the bitmap, throws it into a view. We looked at it back here. And that's what it's done back here. So that, again, is calling a web service. A final thing that you want to keep in mind is that in some cases, it's handy for you to create your own web service. Any robot that you create, the moment you upload it to a robo server, it's automatically visible as a web service. So in the case of the Bank of America, for example, mechanism, that's exactly what we did. We created a web service, and then here's the management console. It's the first time you'll see it. We actually uploaded that robot up to the robo server and made it available as a REST service. And so let me take a look. It's right here, for example. There's a variety of them. So that's the REST service that it called. And you can actually call the REST services in a test mode here, have it return XML and JSON, that sort of thing. The bottom line here, though, the point to take away is that creating a REST service is extremely simple. I mean, it couldn't be much easier. Basically, all you do is build the robot in Design Studio in the manner that I've shown you here, and then you upload it. And I'll show you a few more examples of that in a second. So the point to take away here is that this large robot that's done a variety of things has used a variety of techniques to do those things. It has used web services, ones that we've either created, or in the case of the UPS one that was already created, or it interacted with websites directly using the purpose-built capability, the purpose-built web browser, extraction web browser built into the platform. Now that is a sample demo robot. I'm not sure that that's exactly how it might be implemented in the real world. So let me show you an example of an application or a way that you might approach this in terms of integrating it with a basic web application. So that's what we've got here. It's a web application I wrote real quickly. It uses some of the Twitter Bootstrap API, for example, or the Twitter Bootstrap library, rather, for the UI elements. It's fairly straightforward. It's all JavaScript. And what it does is it mimics how you might use some of the robot capabilities in a real web app. So in this case, what we've got are the accounts that we're interested in pulling application documentation for, and then the login information. And then the interesting thing here is once I get done with it, I can click this here and it will go ahead and automatically grab all the documents that it's returned and email them to me. So you can see that from an end user standpoint, this is much, much easier than a mortgage application process. Under normal circumstances, if I was doing it with paper, I'd have to go print stuff, get it in an envelope, send it back to folks. It'd be a major pain. Even if I was doing it mostly electronically, I'd have to do things like figure out where to get the statement on the HSBC site, make sure I got the right statement, download the statement, bundle all those together in some place, throw together the email myself, and then send it on to somebody. Here, the machine's done all of that for you. So you can see that the actual process of creating the statement was quite simple. I logged into all three of those sites, and then it returned back a statement with the collected, or an email with the collected information back from the website. There's some other interesting things to keep in mind in terms of what you're looking at here. Basically what happens is every time you hit the get document, then the machine heads back out and it runs one of the robots, but it runs it as a web service. So for example, in the case of this HSBC site here, literally it goes back out to this robot and it runs it. And so it grabs the authentication information and attempts to log in. Now, a very interesting new feature that I've shown you already with the pay stubs, and an interesting way of implementing it is that extract screenshot. What it does here is as it's logging in, it takes a screenshot of the various parts of the UI so that the end user, the customer, can see, okay, yeah, it looks like it got into my account okay. The interesting thing about that too is it can be used in a couple of different ways. Suppose, for example, that you got the authentication wrong. You put in bogus credentials. Let's try it. I click Get Document. It erases the screenshot because now it's going to go out. And if you take a look back here, it's actually running the HSBC live robot. And it's going to go out and attempt to log in with the credentials I just gave it. In this case, those credentials are not going to be good. So it's already come back and said, let me give you a bit of a screenshot here in terms of what you're looking at. On my side, as I'm attempting to get this document for you, I can't because you entered an invalid username. So the entire point here is that not only can the robot run, but the robot can return a wide variety of information back to you about what it's seeing as it's running, and that can help the user understand whether or not they've provided proper credentials or things along those lines. So again, let me summarize. What you're looking at here is just a basic mock-up of a possible web application. How you'd create it at your end would vary depending on how you wanted to make use of the platform. But this is a typical example where, in this case, every time I've hit Get Document here, or when I hit Click to Send Application Documents, the machine went out and called the robot as a web service, and was able to interact with the web service and bring real information back into the UI. In this case, it brought us back the fact that the authentication hadn't worked, but in these cases, since it did work, it actually brought back the actual documents, right? So in this case, the Stillwater statement, in that case, the Bank of America statement. So anyway, I'll close the demo out there. There are some examples of how you might use the Kapow platform in a mortgage application process. Feel free to send email or any other questions to Kapow contact points on our website. We'd be happy to answer any questions about this. Thank you much.